This build does get a GPS and compass, so I'm going to go ahead and get the GPS and compass out so I can get the wiring out of it. That's all we're going to be using at this point is the wiring for the two parts. We will be mounting the compass in this step. Not the GPS all goes in the hood. We will mount the wire for the GPS. I'm going to be showing you some things about the FC1212, the AHRS-S, kind of how they work and the way to mount them properly, or my way of mounting them properly. We're going to need that 6-wire pigtail for our GPS. Makes it a little bit easier than doing it later. I'm also going to pull these leads. I'm going to fit this in the FC1212 right away. The rest of the GPS we can put up out of the way for the moment. Over there. 5-wire compass to AHRS connection. And our compass right over here. And the little compass stickies. Take this here when you get to it pretty soon. And this stuff here we're going to get pretty soon. Okay, the first part of this step, we're going to look at all of our parts. I have our AHRS out here. It has a new sticky pad, different than the old 4 square ones. Shows in your packet the old style of mounting versus the new style of mounting. It's a little more rigid, doesn't require the penny on the bottom. Seems very smooth. So I want to get the, go ahead and lay this aside for the moment so we can do the lower frame parts. So we're going to be mounting that with the FC1212 flight controller here pretty soon. We're going to start with our lower frame. The difference in our lower frame and our upper frame is the lower frame is longer. If you lay them on top of one another, here's one of our ends could be the front or the rear. But the longer side is the front and the rear on our lower plate. So I'm going to take our upper plate out of the way for the moment, and we're going to work on our lower frame. And the first thing I do here is actually 3 more steps or so in the manual. I'm not sure how many, don't really matter. But I'm going to refer to the manual right here for the mounting of our electronics. I'm going to use our FC1212 mounting plate. This is a very important part of the mounting. We want this to be dead centered on here because the way the AHRS plate mounts over it is very tight. There's no real room for error here because it's very tight fit. You'll see here in a moment what I'm speaking about. So referring to the manual for mounting the electronics, and the reason I mount the electronics now is once you get to, if you follow the manual, put both halves of the frame together and assemble all your booms as it shows, you actually have a lot harder time getting to everything down in between these frame halves. And this, you can also see your leveling of your mounting plates at this time and get them perfectly level without having to try to look back in the frame and different things. But on the electronic stack, I've done this two different ways. I don't really see a difference either way. But as it shows in the manual, it shows, I think these are the 3007 plastic standoffs, the M3007s here, going down through the lower frame and through the FC1212 assembly. That's something we're going to be doing here in a moment. The first thing I'm going to do is mount my FC1212 to the FC1212 plate right here. And this is where we get our front end. Right now is when we establish the front of the aircraft. So I'm going to jump, or I'm right there. The FC1212S and the AHRS, the writings, they mount with opposite orientations. So the arrow on the FC or the AHRS, of course, is going to face the front of the craft with the writing upside down. If you look from the rear to the front, the writing on the FC1212 will be in proper orientation, and I'll show you that as we go right here too. So I'm going to get those out. We'll jump to the frame struts, strut 1 assembly and strut 2 assembly. There's 2 strut 1s, 2 strut 2s. Pretty simple frame assembly. We just want to get these electronics properly in here. And I'll do it the opposite as those standoffs showed. I actually put the bolt up through the bottom instead of this and reverse it. It's a little easier for me to work with it that way. You can do it either way. It's the same height from here to here. Either way you go between these two pieces. I like doing the reverse. You can do it either way. Don't let me influence you there, because that's just the way I prefer it. I like those bolt heads being down, sticking up from the bottom, versus this threaded section sticking down with the nut on the bottom. So we're going to take our plastic bolts out. There's 4 of them. These are M3 by 8mm plastic bolts. There the 4 of them are. Out there. Plus there's out of sight there's a couple more parts we'll be using it momentarily. And I want 4 of these, the M3007s that we spoke of, that I actually invert in the assembly. I'll go ahead and get 4 of those out. They give you an excess amount of these. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to mount our flight controller on this plate. Orientation at this point doesn't matter. Being square on this plate is critical. There's a little give, so not a lot. And there's our FC1212 flight controller out there. And then nice little silica packs to keep it from getting moisture in it during transit. Okay, our stickies, double-sided stick tape. I just use my fingernail. You can use an X-Acto knife to start this up if you want to. I'm going to get the goes on the thicker portions of the FC1212 mount. You got these. This is your cross points. Crosses across the frame, which will be your front or rear. Pretty much center a tape on here. Nice and neat. It's pretty well centered on there. Clean it up. You see it's just for alignment, it's just about a little over a 1/16 out past this edge here. And once you do that, you can kind of tell where that is. That way, if you're way out here, you're not going to be centered, which isn't that critical, but I like to do it nice. Come over, get the other half. We know it's just a little ways past there. Maybe a little too far. That should be about right. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, that works. Okay. Here, we want to get a nice feel for, we can use these 4 bolts on the bottom of our FC1212 for alignment. Got my light to the wrong side, and I apologize for that. But if you kind of feel this, the front and rear sides of your FC1212 are a little more narrow than the mount. So you kind of get the front and rear equal, and the edges of these bolts will help you to align your side-to-side mounting. The edge of the bolt kind of sticks out equally on all 4 sides. So I'm going to go ahead and take our double-sided sticky tape apart. I haven't really figured out a trick for this, except just really be careful aligning it. So we're exposed. Go ahead and set this down, that way I can look down over it. Feel the front and rear and look at the 2 bolts and the straight edge. If we don't put a lot of pressure, we still have some adjustment, so if it doesn't feel quite there, which it is, I usually, for some reason, get lucky and nail this. Just a little bit of pressure. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's about, not quite a 1/16, about a millimeter of edge in front and in rear. I don't know if that's front and rear, but at the moment, but a little wider, and then the edges of this plate are right about the inside edges of each of the 4 bolts. It's nice and square on there, which will really help when we start mounting the AHRS. Now, this decides the front of our aircraft. Remember the writing? You look through this toward the front. Your computer link is on the front. The 5 ports. It's ports A, B, C, D, and E. Doesn't matter what order you plug anything into these ports. They all just read whatever you plug in there, and they will work. The only thing that is critical is the link plug, and I'm going to go ahead and put the link plug in now. That way it's out of the way. And I'm also going to put our 6 plug wire in for our, since this build does get a GPS, for our GPS, I'm going to put it in the center rear port, which is port B. It's seated in there nice. And there it's in the port B coming out the rear, which is going to be helpful in mounting that to the canopy where the antenna and the actual GPS get mounted in the way I built this kit. And the other thing I want to do, besides the link plug, putting it in, I'm going to go ahead and put in the AHRS wire with another 6-pin wire. I'll leave that in there with the AHRS for just a moment, the padding, the mounting tape. And I want to put this out the front side because our exit on our AHRS for our port and link plug is on the front side. Or actually, it's on the rear side. I apologize. So we will actually run this out of port A on the FC1212. This could have came just a tiny bit later in the build, but I'm going to go ahead and do it now, because it's not really in the way of these bolts. There's that joker. So, since we're on here, just let me get the link plug out of the box. The link plug, by the way, comes in with the bag with your USB cable and your USB adapter, which we'll be going over that pretty thoroughly later. Let's just go ahead and leave everything in there except for our 4-pin connector, which I'm going to go ahead and put in the AHRS. Just be easy getting it out and don't mess it up. Stick it behind something. Okay, there's our link plug in, and that's how it should look. This is going to be the center, and port B is going to be what's going to your GPS system, and this in port A, which is appropriate and how I always done it. It just kind of went brain dead there for a moment. Going to go to our AHRS. Let's go ahead and bolt this down. I start with running all 4 of my plastic 3mm by 8mm plastic cross head or Phillips head screws to our frame. There's 2 sets of holes here. It goes in the inner set. This is actually the pivot hole for our booms. So let's put these through. You notice there's plenty of slack. It doesn't really chew anything up as you put it through, because plastic bolts, if you come through a really tight hole, you will mess up the threads, and a little harder to screw into your M3007 hex assembly or bolt. Now I've got that out. So, but anyway, you just kind of hold this up here and let gravity help you. It'll be a lot easier. Okay, those 4 in. I'll just lay my fingers on them. And we want to drop find our front, decide on what our front's going to be. I've done dropped 1 out, dropped 2 out. Anyway, you don't have to put them all in at the same time. I just did that. It's a little snug. That's still okay. It's not that snug. That's actually a better way to do it. Now we've decided the front of our aircraft by the orientation of our flight controller. I like this. I like these 4 smooth bolt heads being out the bottom versus having that screw coming through the nut down there. It's not going to damage anything either way. It's just, I like that. Now at this point you can look at your AHRS. I'm sorry, I apologize. Make a lot of mistakes in my speech as usual. But if you listen, you'll see that I correct it usually. We really want this plate down flush on our lower frame plate. No unevenness. Very flush. That's key to everything. I'm going to go ahead and start our M3007s standoffs on here. It should go on very smooth and easily. You can twist them all the way down with your finger. If you can't, then you've got some booger threads or something going on. I dropped it. We really don't want to torque these jokers down. You want them tight so that they can't back off. There's no need to. You want torque just enough to seal the lock on the thread. Any more than that, you're stressing the bolts, and should you have an incident where you hit your machine against the ground really hard, and these bolts are really stressed, these plastic bolts are really stressed, you'll cause one of these bolts to fracture a lot sooner than if you didn't stress them. Actually, they'd be very difficult to break if you don't stress them. Okay, I'm looking at my lower frame in my FC1212 mount. There's no air space at all anywhere. It's down there nice and flush. Turn it back around because this is the front side. I want to keep the front side out this way for now. We may turn that during the build, but said I'm going to get a screwdriver. This is a 5.5mm driver, which you can use a little pair of needle nose or whatever. Just don't have to hold it real tight, because we're just going to put about a half a turn on these to finish tightening them down. Any more than that, it's just not necessary. This will. Now, actually, that one's not deep enough, or is there something in there? Should be pretty deep. I'm not going to fool with that. Just needle nose. And a small Phillips screwdriver, medium size driver. Fits in the screws nice. I've got this little set of IHA drivers, which I absolutely love. They've got everything you need to pretty well build any. I'm not advertising for IHA, but they're great tools. I've had these for decades, literally decades, a couple of decades. I really love them. So that fits in there real nicely. Actually, I could probably just hold this with my fingers. You're not going to need anything there. Yeah, about a quarter of a turn. It's got that. It's not going to turn unless you really do some crazy torque above it on your nut when you put it on. Yeah, that's a good quarter turn. 90 degrees after they've got them good snug. Right at 90 degrees. That's perfect. They're not turning. They're tight. The FC1212 mounting plate is perfectly flush down against the lower frame. Now we'll go ahead and mount the AHRS mounting plate. I want to do this before I put the AHRS on, or you could do it after. But if you notice when I put this on, that's snug. This is the reason I wanted the FC1212 to be aligned perfectly straight. If I get this down here square, if you look, there's absolutely zero space in here between the edge of this plate and your input and output sides of your 12 channels on each side of your FC1212. That's a pretty easy name. So there's 12 channels here, 12 channels here, input and output. Take a little time, go around, make sure that plate is down there flush against these hexagonal or six-sided standoffs. Now, you know when your AHRS is on here that it's perfectly flat with your lower frame. Both plates are flat, perfectly flat. Very easy. Just take a little. It don't take. You can see how long it took. It didn't take any time. We're going to turn it back to our front again. At this point, that's really most of that build. So we're not stacking anything else on top of this. Just time to put the 4 plastic nuts on there. Now they do have an orientation with them as well. Put these back up. Okay. Your 4 plastic nuts that hold down your AHRS tray the way I'm building it now have a really flat side and a kind of a beveled side. You want to put the really flat side down against the AHRS mounting plate, and your beveled side is going to go up. I know I may be over-explaining some things, but I don't know what someone may or may not know about building models. Just take your time, start these on. They'll go on really nice and easy. Put them down with your finger if you want. If you've got a 5.5 millimeter socket, drop her on there and just tighten it down to where it touches. Just touches. That's it. Just tighten, just where it touches. You don't need any more than that for this. Once we get them all 4 down on there, we don't want to be. It's not going to lift up anyway, but I just got a habit of not over torquing my bolts till everything's squared and assembled. Driver. I'll put my finger against the hex because that felt a little tight. I don't want it to turn. touched. It just touched. It just touched. Okay, so I'm going to take them a little tighter, but I just wanted to get them down there, look at it again, just out of habit, and I'm going to put my finger there again, about 90 degrees. My finger against my hex again, about 90 degrees. That's all you need on this plastic anymore. Like I said, you're stressing them. That's not going to back loose. I mean, you'd have to, I don't know what you'd have to do, but it would be a chore. This, you can see our XAircraft logo down in there. Return to stripe. The writing is as though you're reading it looking toward the front. Toward the front of the craft, which is our link cable comes out the front. The only cable right now coming out the front. Until some more upgrades come, that will be the only cable coming out the front of the FC1212. Everything else is coming out the top. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mount now our AHRS. I'm doing this perpendicular the way I normally would do it, since for the camera angle. But the front of our aircraft, because this would be my front, but this is a camera front, so it's worked that way. I got both our plates on our lower plate. It's time to mount the AHRS with the arrow facing forward of the craft. I'm going to actually turn this here, and I apologize, it's just a little easier for me to square this. I like putting our new gray rubber sticky on the back of our AHRS first. It's just a little behind the front. That'll put it just a little ahead of the rear, or that, the other side. It's pretty even on both sides. If you take a little time and look at it, it's not hard to square that up. You don't have to burnish it down on there. It's going to stick. Yeah, that's some sticky stuff. Really nice. Yeah, XAircraft products are very, very well thought out. You really want to get your AHRS centered front and rear and side to side. As best you can. Now that's real nice. Nice and square on there, stuck down. If you got a little bit out of angle, it probably wouldn't kill you, but it's really nice like this. We'll go ahead now, since we went ahead and wired our AHRS plug in port A, where you can see it there. I'm going to make a little loop in our wire, and then loop through, so that it's kind of not just sticking out with a big huge amount of wire sticking out there. We've just shortened it all down. Get my hand out of the light so you can see it. I made a nice little loop. Get my hand under there or something where you can see what I've done. I just made a little knot. Plug that into the, don't force it anyway, just bring it over here and plug it into the port plug. That's our column port right there, flight controller. Got our wire knotted up there, just one little cross in the wire. You can turn it a little bit so it's up nice and neat, because I end up kind of keeping it up here for the moment, standing up. It's pretty bendable wire, so just don't have to force it. Just kind of lay your finger lightly on there, lay it up out of your way, because we'll be dropping the frame down, the upper frame on here in just very soon. The same with this GPS wire. It's in the center port, that port number, the center one in the back. So anyway, we're going to come up out the center of the frame with it too. It's easier to reach the frame cover, the nice pretty black plastic cover that comes with the kit. This beautiful carbon, by the way, just absolutely beautiful, nice thickness, right at 2 millimeters. Yeah, it's 2 millimeter thickness. Doesn't say anywhere what the thickness is, but it's good and rigid. The mounting plates are very nice and thick too there. About 2 millimeters as well. They're good and thick, good heavy carbon fiber, but extremely, extremely light. Okay, so we've got now our primary electronic stacks is on here, It's on here flush, level, square. We've got our link cable in, which you're going to get a lot of pleasure out of this soon. It's really awesome. The software blows my mind. Okay, we have our 4 booms prepared. And what I do at this point is I'm not worried about all 4 of my frame struts, but I'm going to go ahead and put our front and rear struts on, which are, jump back through the instructions here. Our short struts are our strut 1, and there is a straight strut, our frame strut. I'll lay those out so you can look at them. And our strut 2 is the long struts with the bend in it. These are our struts 2, which are going last. The way I would build, they go on last. And there's our struts we're going to put on right now. I keep a pile of plastic bags over here. This is actually the center of our camera. I've got this crack here that I have absolutely not been using, but you know, I'm going to try to use it now if I can. Just give me a minute. Double check myself here. That's kind of crazy. I knew that, but I just guess I wanted to check. Our 2 frame halves go together with the M. All of our bolts are labeled M, mini machine. At 2.5 by 6 millimeters. Same thing, we put the carbon fiber plates on the motor mounts with. I'm just going to pull them all out at this point. Out there, set them out in the view of the camera. That's the rest of our boats, except for the larger boats that mount the booms on. Remember our Loctite, and we're through with this Phillips, by the way. That's the only time you use a Phillips in this build. And actually a little larger one would be okay, but this works. Go ahead and get this out of our way. Nice little kit, little 26-piece big kit. You'll be able to find these on our website. Yeah, very, very nice. Very nice. Build anything model-wise with those things. So we just get our Loctite out here. This takes the 1.5 millimeter hex wrench. Wow, that's a good pedal. We need it. There's a lot of these. Well, not that many. There's 16. I'm not going to need that anymore either. Well, let's leave it out. I don't need it for something. So 1.5. It has to be black in this set. Could be in color, but it's nice to have the nice tool. Really nice tool versus having, this is actually made by a line. There's lots of decent brand names. I don't use a line bits. Once they break, I use another brand. Hobbyco. Inexpensive. They're a couple dollars for a new shaft if you break one of these 1.5 millimeter shafts. But let's go ahead and put our 2 frame sides on our struts. Our frame struts. Oh, I've got that backwards. It's front and rear. Nice little brass inserts for putting your bolts into. Very, very well thought out. You're taking that thing down. Let's get it started. I'm going to pull those down evenly and not. I do that all the time. It's the rear set of hose, by the way. It's slightly different. They're more toward the center set of hose of where you want to put these struts. The front 2 hose here and here are for the load mounts, where your load pipes go through, and your load mounting rubber isolators. I'll tell you the name of them in a moment. part numbers. Go through these two and these two. Same on the rear here. Of course, your strut goes here. Don't over tighten your bolts. Just feel them; they're good tight. That's tight. You don't over tighten them. Okay. Put our rear one on. I'm not going to hurt the edges of that carbon by sitting against the table. Pretty soon here, in just a moment, you're going to be seeing the machine start to look like a machine. And it kind of slows down at this point because there's several things we do at one time. Don't be in any hurry. Pause this video as much as you want and stop if you want to follow my build. I've seen really good success building this way. Okay, that's where I'm going to take the build for the moment. Not putting these struts on yet. They'd be in my way. Front of our aircraft up this way. There's our two struts on and secured. Now we go to our booms. At this point, for me, this is the way I build. I'll start with one boom, what I call boom 1.5. This is 3.7, which actually it can't be 1.5 because it's 4.8, 2.6, and 1.5. So we'll get this out. We're going to use these 8 plastic washers. These are, don't know the part number. These are the M3008 nylon washers. They're a 6mm outer diameter, 3mm inner diameter, and 1.5mm thick. If any of that matters to you guys, but they are. That's what they are. They're a 6mm outer diameter, 3mm inner diameter, and 1.5mm thick. Let's see how that compares to the thickness of the frame. Curiosity. Frame is a little thicker than that, so it may not be quite 2mm, but it is a good thickness. Okay. If you look on your plans, this is the V8 addendum. Motors. Motors 1 and 5. If you look at your wiring over here, it's straight through. I'm going to put this boom on first. This arrow indicates the front of our aircraft, obviously. Sorry about that. I'm probably the only one that's that stupid, but here we go. 1.5 goes right here. Front of our craft. Front right of our craft. I've got the paper bent so it makes our... Well, it's not that. It's these actually the black and white. Black versus white circles. It's indicating your clockwise and counterclockwise motion of your propellers. Yummy, yummy. Okay, let's mount the booms. Let's get to that. We'll worry about this propeller orientation very soon, but it's not necessary right now. 1.5. Going to need our large bolts, which are here somewhere. Here they are. Our M3004s. There's 8 of these, and this is the pivot bolts for the booms, for our collapsible booms. each of these get one of these 6x3 by 1.5 millimeter washers. Oh boy, fancy stuff. And it takes the 2 millimeter driver. There's our bolt. It's actually the thickest, most gigantic bolt in the kit, which you can see it's really gigantic. Put our washer on. I'll have to find my wrench. My nice, neat work table here. Could be too far away. I haven't been anywhere. Have I left? No, I don't think I've left. Okay. We'll Loctite on here. Actually, there's another way to do this, and I'm going to do it that way. I went ahead and got a Loctite on the tip of my boat, but I'm going to lay this to the side and show you the best way to do this. And our battery's getting low on our camera, so I'm going to try to do this very quickly. Take your boom, top side of your boom. This is front right boom. Let's go ahead and try to line it pretty well and fit it in our frame strut there. There's our front. That's when you collapse it, that's where to be. So we'll flip him over, push him in there till that hole, the brass hole, aligns with the big hole in the frame, the outer of the inner circle of bolts. It's pretty close right there.